So prior to the state of play, obviously recently we now have two CEOs for Sony Interactive Entertainment, one of which is Herman Hulst, ex-studio director of Guerrilla Games. And what I kind of respect about this is that basically they've come out to explain their cross-platform strategy. And it's kind of put an end to the speculation, but has certainly raised plenty of questions. But yeah, basically they've specifically said that yes, they want to reach more users with their games by porting those games to PC. Live action service games, your Helldivers and your Concords, they will be day and date on PC and PlayStation 5. But for the more narrative-driven single-player titles, they're going to be using what they described as a quote-unquote more strategic approach, where there will be a time period between the PlayStation 5 versions and the PC versions. And remarkably, he sort of made the point that we actually think we can convert PC gamers, quick side eye to Alex, to enter the PlayStation ecosystem because they've sampled how great those games are on their PC, and they may wish to enjoy them on a more powerful or a less powerful system. Quick question here from very professional Dodo. Hello, gents! Exclamation points. Curious to see your opinions on PlayStation 5 games being ported to PC. We have two arguments being made. On the one side, we have Herman Hulst stating that shipping single-player games on PC might attract PC users to PS5 to play sequels, for example. On the other, we have internet forum users stating that PC players would rather wait however long they have to wait and would never buy a PlayStation just to buy a specific game, to play a specific game. In both scenarios, Sony makes money, whether by people buying a PS5 or people buying their games at a later date. However, there's a clear argument that losing exclusives detracts value from the platform, and that brings some risk. Just ask Nintendo, for better or worse. The most straightforward legal way to play Mario or Zelda is if you pony up and buy a Switch, and that has been going swimmingly for them. Thoughts?
Wait, Rich. Based on internet parlance, if you pony up, wouldn't that mean buying a PlayStation?
Yeah. Well, it becomes... It has a double meaning. Yeah.
Wow.
You can't pony up on a Switch.
I'm going to follow this up with some interesting context, which is that people put their own Twitter polls up saying, would you desert your PC for a PS5 to play PlayStation games? And a lot of people, I think it was like 75% to 25% no. Then I saw another poll, which was like, okay, are you going to wait to play Grand Theft Auto 6 on PC, or will you buy a PlayStation to play it? And that was more like 50-50.
That's weird, too. It's weird.
Why is it weird?
Because it's one of the most eagerly awaited games, if not the most eagerly awaited.
Most people aren't going to be precious about that and be like, I'll just wait for the PC version.
Well, it's not about being precious. It's more like, I just don't understand like the massive drive because I'm not so in love with the series.
No, I'm actually with you on that, but it's like the best. Isn't it one of like the best-selling games ever? GTA 5?
It's ridiculous how much it's sold.
Like GTA 5 is like a license to print money, basically.
Well, I think they've got a problem
6
here.
will be as well.
I mean, they can counteract the argument to a certain extent that you'd be sort of playing the games on a less powerful system because the PS5 Pro is coming. But at the same time, we know that there's going to be question marks over like
performance,
PC staples, 60 FPS and high frame rate gaming in general.
Maybe they're targeting, like when you look at the most common hardware on Steam surveys, for instance, a PS5 Pro is going to be more capable
like
than
a
any of those.
3060. Yeah, for sure.
I don't think that when they say that, they're necessarily talking to the high-end PC users, the guys with the 4090s and other high-end stuff in their kit. Like, of course, they're just like, no, they're not really interested in. They're all in on PC, right, Alex? I mean, it wouldn't make sense if you were not in this job. You would not have a PS5, and you wouldn't consider it. Right?
No, I wouldn't. No,
but you're all the way in on PC, and I think there's a fair number of people that do play PC games, and they have mid-range to lower-end systems that might actually consider that.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that either, just because I think when you're used to a platform, you play it like a lot of ways. A lot of people have mid-range platforms, but they prefer mouse and keyboard and things like that. You know what I mean? Like it's all about input and also just like what you do in your daily life. It's hard to talk for other players, but the one thing is the thing that you're hinting at, and that I just disagree with personally, that like it's just GTA to me. It's not like a big driver in my life, but is that has such a cultural like touchstone value for people that they're willing to just drop 500 euros on a console or whatever
100%
to play it because it's, oh my God, I got to be there for the hype. But I don't know if Sony games have that level of cultural pull.
I think Spider-Man kind of does.
Yeah, but not really though, because Spider-Man 2 didn't drive everyone to PS5, right? You know, they just said as a part of this, PS4 is still part of our platform strategy.
But
so
there's still, like,
I don't know.
They've sold pretty much as many PS5s in the same period as PS4, right? Like, so it's moving units about as fast as they possibly could.
Could be, but I'm not convinced that they have the cultural like
not like
weight.
GTA. Nobody has that.
Yeah, so or like Pokemon, for example. That has an immense cultural weight.
But even that I don't think has the same pull as GTA.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, I mean, GTA maybe in other...
For different generations,
I'm not
maybe.
sure about like in Asian countries.
I think it's a big ask to move people away from a platform as liberating and empowering as the PC.
It's not moving away, though.
Well, are you saying it's a complementary purchase,
Yeah,
a secondary
purchase.
games
It's
machine?
expensive complementary purchase.
Well, you know, I'm looking at the Steam hardware survey, and you know, all of the top GPUs are basically console standard or lower. We've got 3060, 1650, 3060 Ti is now the third most popular.
That's a genuinely shocking one.
That is, yeah, 2060, 3070, 1060, and then it's like laptop 3060, which and 4060 laptop GPUs actually shot up now. That's quite remarkable. 3050, I'd say, there is a sort of performance deficit against the PS5 with a lot of these GPUs. So, you know, possibly, you know, I just don't think maybe there's the volume of games and that would make people sort of transition across that, you know, that PC has. And secondly, you know, there's a lot of people talking about $500 boxes. You know, you can't get the sort of value of a PC from $500, but you've got to remember that if you want stuff like cloud saves or indeed free games, you've got to have the PlayStation Plus subscription. Whereas, you know, PC, no multiplayer tax, you get free games with Epic.
EGS.
Yeah, if you want it. I think it's a tough call. I can see why Sony would make that argument because it's convenient to make it, right? And I do think something has got to give, though, because the concepts, you know, that you're waiting however many years, you know, Tsushima PC, we had to wait a long time for a port. You know, I think that window has got to contract to at most a year.
Yeah. That would be good.
Yeah, because I think you're just losing out on a lot of the marketing that you're doing just from a business standpoint. If you're like, I have no problem waiting for a game if I'm interested in it, because I really just want, at the end of the day, quality, and I'm more interested in that than day and date. But for a lot of people, there is a hype cycle and there's a marketing cycle, and if you're having to do that twice over, maybe you're losing out on potential buyers over time, because they're maybe by that time when your game releases that was big on PS5, people are playing Baldur's Gate 3 on PC. You know, they're playing something else. They're worried about something else. You know what I mean? So like, or you know, maybe they're playing the Elden Ring expansion or something like that.
They're doing something good numbers though, didn't it?
Yeah, it was like I mean, it's in comparison to other multi-platform releases, it's not particularly different. It's actually actually a little bit lower than some multi-platform releases, but it was good within the portfolio of PS5 games. I think it's like second best.
Better or worse if it came out at the same time as the PS4 version?
Well, that would be 4 years ago. It would have done better.
Probably,
I think. Especially at that time, 2020, kind of weird.
There would have been a big power deficit there between, you know, good PC of the time and the PS4. It would have been marketed as the way to play the game at 60 FPS if it came out the same time.
Yeah, right. That would have been
interesting.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with Rich though. Just to like have the games be more successful requires more of that excitement to be held within a certain temporal time frame. But I myself, all I really want is just quality. So I think waiting up to 1 to 2 years is reasonable enough, even though the interest may fade.
Yeah, I think getting it day and date would be pretty tough, though, for a lot of those games.
Yeah.
Given what we've seen with
there would be an
Nixxes
undoubted
and
quality
Yeah,
issue.
I'm not sure that they could do it.
There's quality
realistically.
issues already at times, right?
Right.
So like having it be day and date would maybe even require more input from the original developer at that
I
point in
would,
time.
I think, for
So-
sure, because like I think it would be almost unfair to Nixxes at that point to have to ship that, just because they'd be dealing with all these like unreleased, pre-release stuff. I mean, they have experience with that; they've done that before, but
Right.
that's obviously a lot
shadow.
of work. 'Cause you're always like, you're waiting on the most up-to-date builds to work with and problems to be fixed on the original dev team side.
Yeah, which you have less control over.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have any ideas of, because Nixxes is running out of games to port? Obviously, there's the new titles that are in development that they'll be deployed on. But I'm just wondering if they should go back and do some PS4 stuff that would do really well.
I think that would be cool. They should.
And, there's also, I guess, the opportunity of various PlayStation 4 titles that could also be on PS5 with native versions.
Bloodborne.
Knack.
Yeah, Knack 2.
Knack 2.
I'm thinking like Last Guardian, which is a
Oh,
game that
man.
would truly benefit.
From
I mean, via
current gen
Illusions mods, we've seen how it looks on PS5 running
60.
at like 60. It really was quite impressive. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious as to what happens with Nixxes next, and whether there'll be like a transitionary period where they are taking the concept of getting closer to day and date, or at least reducing the time window, because they've told us it takes a year to develop a port. That's
Right.
a lot of developmental effort. Well, we don't know the size of the team, but even so.
Yeah, so some of those ports a year though, but I imagine within the engine families, like we've seen with like Insomniac, and now that they have Ghost of Tsushima's engine on PC, and how they also told us in interviews that they're using cross-game libraries to make their development faster, like how they do dynamic res across all games, how they do ultra-wide support, how they do a variety of things.
Right.
Actually, like they're building libraries that are making this quicker all the time.
That's cool.
So, yeah, maybe they are capable of it. Maybe they require more staff. Maybe they require different funding. It really knows. But I would like to see it shrink for sure.
Okay.
Though I think that at the end of the day, the real reason is because probably Sony's a little bit afraid. I don't know how justified it is of people moving to PC if they bring it closer to day and
I think
date.
they are actually afraid of like sort of deprioritizing the console.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the God of War trailer that you weren't happy about, Alex,
Yeah.
if you have within a Sony State of Play, an advert talking about how great the PC is doing features that the console can't do, there is a disconnect there in terms of the marketing message, right?
Yeah.
But I honestly think there is a clear delineation between a games machine that you set up and it just works, that's primarily maybe in the living room or in a bedroom or an office, and then the PC side. Well, obviously there's crossover with the office, but it's a different style of setup.
Yeah.
I do think they can peacefully coexist, but at the same time, I guess the concept of exclusivity does have value, and I do think possibly there has been some diminishment of that on Xbox by being PC simultaneously.
Yeah.
I think it was more that the fact it takes time for the ports to get good on PC, on the Microsoft side. Halo Infinite was a bit of an issue, more so than the console. Even Forza Horizon had issues at launch.
It's hard with Microsoft, right?
And I can't speak to whether it's hard to say what kind of an impact that actually had, but I can say anecdotally that besides you guys, I don't have a single friend or know anybody that owns a Series X or an S, like not even one. And they all had Xboxes in the past, but literally every one of them says, well, like, I just have a PC. Like, why like they have the other consoles. All of them have other consoles, Switch and PS5s.
Right.
But nobody got an Xbox because they felt it wasn't necessary.
Well,
they kept their old Xboxes around, but then since they just switched to PC, And I'm wondering if that's actually a common sentiment where they're like, well, we don't really need the Xbox hardware because we can just play these things on PC.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
The difference there, though, is Microsoft still, they have Windows, right?
Yep.
If Sony did that and the same thing happened, they've got nothing to fall back on.
Right. I get your point.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can at least get into Game Pass, you get into the Microsoft Windows ecosystem. Like, even if it's not an Xbox console, you're still like, you got your foot in the door with Microsoft. Where Sony, they would not have that at all. It'd just be like, well, okay, I guess you go to Steam, which is not our platform.
The platform may be diminished, but obviously Microsoft isn't losing money in making a console for those people.
But I think Microsoft's the only one that can afford to do that.
Right.
Because they have this, because of the way that they're set up, they have strengths and advantages that Sony and Nintendo don't have, and those guys need to make sure that the consoles are still like an appealing prospect, in a way that Xbox doesn't really technically need to do anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like with Xbox, it's also hard historically to like separate. Well, I actually don't think it's that hard to separate. Maybe where we saw the massive failure of the Xbox One at launch. And I almost feel like they had to go to PC to start being profitable in a good way, or that's where they started the initial inroads with that, like where we saw the Remedy game, I forget the name of it, Quantum Break, being like the first, along with Gears of War remake, I forget the name of it, Ultimate Edition, where they were moving over to PC, and it was just because like they needed to start going PC because their Xboxes weren't selling, the games weren't going to be selling as much to justify the budgets that were being given out, and that's when it kind of started. So it's hard to like say which one is the other, chicken and egg, but I think it was actually more like Xbox needed to start branching into PC to be successful again, and it worked out more or less. But their quality issues has always been an issue. Unfortunately, Halo, you just said Halo Infinite.
Yeah. Okay.